Welcome to the regular meeting of the Public Health and Safety Committee for August 13, 2025. I am Jason Chavez, and I am the chair of this committee. Before we begin the meeting, I want to offer a friendly reminder to all members and staff and the public that these meetings are broadcast live to enable greater public participation. These broadcasts include real-time captioning as a further method to increase the accessibility of our proceedings to the community. Therefore, all speakers need to be mindful of the rate of their speech so that our captioners can fully capture and transcribe all comments for the broadcast. We ask all speakers to moderate the speed and clarity of their comments. At this time, I want the clerk to call the roll so we can verify a quorum for this meeting.
Councilmember Payne.
Present.
Rainville.
Present.
Ellison is absent. Palmisano.
Present.
Vice Chair Wansley.
Present.
Chair Chavez.
Present.
We have 5 present.
Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. Colleagues, we'll first start with the consent agenda. Item number 2 is authorizing a grant acceptance from the Minnesota Department of Health for public health emergency preparedness. Item number 3 is authorizing a joint powers agreement with the state of Minnesota for hazardous materials response. And then I'll check if any of my colleagues have any questions on these items. I'll move approval of these items. And seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? And that is being forwarded to the full council meeting. All right, colleagues. Our next item is the fees for use of city-owned resources ordinance. It's also a public hearing related to an amendment to the license fee schedule, specifically adding fees related to city-owned resources. If you wish to speak, you'll need to sign up by the clerk right up front. And we're going to have Vice Chair Wansley, who we're inviting to speak on the ordinance, along with Council President Payne, before we open the public hearing.
Thank you so much, Chair Chavez. We're going to try something a little bit different today in our presentation. Oh, does it show me? All right. Good afternoon, colleagues. And that's showing. So we're here to present, and by we, Council President Payne and I, on Appendix J, which is an item or ordinance related to our ability to collect off-duty fees. I'm very pleased after 3 years of work with the administration that we're taking tangible legislative actions, and that's being considered before this body today. And it's going to be of immense benefit to the public and address a very problematic aspect of our current public safety system. Once again, we're considering Appendix J, which will essentially codify the city's right to recoup fees related to off-duty police work. So with that, I will also open up for any comments from my co-author.
Yeah, we have been working on this, as Councilmember Wansley said, for several years. And this body of work got intermingled with a conversation about our buyback program. And as we unpacked all of the ways that MPD is conducting overtime, off-duty, or buyback work, we saw real challenges, particularly with the overtime work. I want to thank Councilmember Palmisano's leadership and her role on audit for helping to conduct an audit of our off-duty work. And in that audit, we did find a number of high-risk issues associated with off-duty work. So again, by background, off-duty is paid time that individuals can hire an MPD officer individually. So this is not via the city. They're not getting paid through payroll. That was the biggest distinction between off-duty and buyback, and a lot of people would confuse those two. So off-duty is let's say a business wants to have an officer patrol a grocery store, let's say, they're paying that officer directly, and that officer is using city-owned vehicle, city-owned uniform, and they look like they're a regular police officer, but they're actually in a direct contractual relationship with that organization. Whereas buyback would be an organization getting into a contract with the city as an institution, and then hiring those police officers to do targeted patrols or targeted duty and getting paid via payroll. So that's kind of the biggest distinction here. And one of the challenges that were identified, and I should say not just challenges, but risks to the city as an institution identified through the audit, was that there wasn't a lot of tracking or traceability on how officers were using their time, how much money was getting, revenue was generated to those officers through off-duty work. There wasn't a lot of controls around off-duty work. And the lack of those controls and the lack of that oversight is a risk to the city, but it's a risk to the community too, because that means that we were not clear on how many hours officers were working in combination of on-duty and off-duty, leading to officer burnout, officer wellness challenges, and that burnout has consequences.
And just to ground this conversation in those real time consequences is thinking of the shooting and killing of Justine Diamond back in 2017 by former MPD officer Muhammad Noor, who had just completed a 10-hour off-duty shift prior to the shooting and killing of Justine. And once again, this tragic incident really brought the problematic nature of our off-duty program to the forefront of the public's mind, and wanted to understand, how did we have a program that was not only unregulated but could lead to deadly outcomes where, again, a civilian could lose their life because we had officers who are essentially working full-time and then also their side gigs as well, and creating a space for exhaustion. So that said, we just wanted to ground that this work has real human trauma and pain attached to it, particularly this program, and noted that the killing of Justine Diamond really, again, prompted serious scrutiny and coverage of our off-duty program that would eventually make its way to City Hall, where residents were asking, what are we doing to address the problematic aspects of our off-duty program? And from that, as Council President Payne highlighted, city leaders, Councilmember Palmisano was involved in this work, will go on to do an audit of our off-duty program in 2019. And while there were recommendations that were brought forward, there wasn't any implementation immediately done, or very minimal. But that didn't stop the public from maintaining continued interest in this program and wanting to know what the city could do to better address it and reform it. And we've seen, again, just very minimal actions from City Hall to really rein this in. And particularly with it being under mostly the scope of authority of the mayor's office, as they have, or he has, control over MPD, that also made it kind of limited in what council could do. But again, residents kept pressing. They wanted to see their city leaders take meaningful action to address this program. And some of these articles that's highlighted here just reflects some of the immense amount of coverage that took place over, a span of years, several years around this program alone. And also, again, not just the deadly outcomes, but the financial impacts of not regulating off-duty that led to settlements and lawsuits as well. So that said, there was a number of us who came in 2021 into City Hall, and were immediately contacted by our residents to say we need to do work around this program. So in January of 2023, my office, along with Council President Payne and many of my colleagues, took the first legislative action around off-duty by bringing forward a legislative directive that was passed by Council, and it asked for recommendations on how we could implement administrative fees related to off-duty. Just a few months later, in March of 2023, that legislative came back with basically no information on how we can do that. So that said, and not wanting to just concede any level of action around this program and wanting to be responsive to our constituents' concerns around it, we brought forward another legislative directive in October of 2024 asking for more specific information around how we could enact potential fees related to off-duty. That said, we also worked with the CAO's office to look at what legal actions we needed to also take to make this possible. And one part of that is we would need to pass a policy that would enable us to collect these fees. And that's what we did earlier this year of January 2025. Council passed the enabling legislation that would allow us to recoup costs for off-duty fees. And then in May of this year, that second legislative directive passed back in October of last year, came back. MPD presented a very comprehensive presentation giving specific numbers on how we could structure our fees and what those fees would be tied to. So we got that really thorough presentation to guide our fee work. And then what we're considering today, as I mentioned, is Appendix J, which will essentially codify the location of this ordinance or our fees within our code. And then the next step after this to really solidify the implementation component of these fees, we will then bring the fee amendments that reflects the numbers provided by MPD back in May of this year to the September 11th full council meeting so that we can actually, again, start this work. And then I'll pass it back to Council President Payne.
So, we have been through really a historical time, not just for the city of Minneapolis, but for the country. Not just a investigation by our state human department of the MDHR, Minnesota Department of Human Rights, but also through the Department of Justice. And one of the issues that was highlighted specifically in the Department of Justice investigation of MPD was that there were a lot of challenges with supervision. And some of the terms of art that were referenced in the full report were chain of command and unity of command. And one of the big challenges with off-duty work is that those officers operating in an off-duty capacity are operating really outside of the chain of command. They're operating outside of the unity of command. And one shorthand that I actually have about this is, we know about Derek Chauvin and what kind of a problem officer he was. And there is this desire to say that the city of Minneapolis had a Derek Chauvin problem. And if we can, get the Derek Chauvins out of the police department, we will be well on our way to reform. I contend we didn't have a Derek Chauvin problem. We had a Sergeant Peterson problem, and that was the supervisor overseeing Derek Chauvin when he assaulted John Pope. That was a case that had we had good supervision and a good accountability framework in place, that use of force would have been flagged as inappropriate and could have been the difference between Derek Chauvin going on to murder George Floyd or George Floyd being what's here today. And so this lack of supervision or ineffective supervision has extreme consequences for our city. So not just, the officer wellness and burnout that we're highlighting from Justine Damon's killing, but also even connecting this to the murder of George Floyd. So the stakes could not be higher on this, and we have been stuck for a long time when it comes to oversight on off-duty work. And the reason we've been stuck are layered and complex. First among them, I would say, is this 1997 injunction, which legally required the city to allow off-duty work. This was a legal injunction through action taken on by the Police Federation. that's been one of the bigger barriers. And in fact, when we were in active negotiation for the latest labor contract, we were looking for a reform on off-duty work, and that's when this injunction really came into the fore as one of the barriers to being able to do much more restrictive oversight of this process. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing that we can do. And over many, many years, over many administrations, there has just been a lack of political will needed to actually address this issue. That was highlighted by MDHR, that was highlighted by the DOJ. We are in a different era, and we have the political will to oversee this work and implement changes that will hopefully improve the controls on this work. So when we're looking at the benefits of this, one of the biggest things, honestly, just from a practical perspective, is ending the subsidization of these side gigs. We just heard from the mayor's budget address this morning. We're adding credit card fees to utility billing. That's going to be filling a gap that we have in our funding. This is another big gap in funding that we have, that we were just allowing the use of city-owned resources to enable this gig work. That's something that the taxpayers are paying for, and we need to correct that. Like I said, in the audit, one of the big findings was a lack of transparency and accountability around managing this. The data systems that MPD uses for time tracking were not adequate to actually accommodate and manage these types of off-duty shifts. So by charging this fee, we're going to have another insight into the amount of hours and the number of gigs and where and when these shifts are happening. And further, it's going to inspire the administration. We have limited powers on the legislative side of our government, and that even predates the strong mayor system. But with this new fee, not only will it give us some transparency through the collection of those fees, but it should be able to plug into deeper system improvement and integration so that we have better tracking and monitoring of these shifts. And so those are some of the additional benefits of charging this fee.
So speaking about the background and the context and the benefits of implementing these fees on off-duty, we wanted to just summarize what's next, and I touched on this. We have the opportunity, as Council President Payne highlighted just now, to recoup over $1 million annually from a program that's largely been subsidized by taxpayers. And it's a program that's not extended to any other city employee. No other city employee, like our public works employees, can go in their spare time and lease or use a garbage truck to pick up garbage on their blocks and reap private income from that. So it's drastically important that not only we have the regulation piece in place, but also that we're finding ways to shift financial burdens that's currently being placed on our residents away from that. And these fees will allow us to do that. So that said, as I mentioned earlier, we will be taking up a fee amendment at the September 11th meeting. There will be a presentation of the overall fee schedule for 2026 at the September 2nd Business, Housing, and Zoning Committee. But we are not on there, so we'll be bringing the amendment to full council on September 11th. I do want to note that, and we highlight this in the presentation, for close to 3 years, we worked very closely with the administration on a pathway to implement these fees. And as all departments do relating to our fees, they could proactively have added that to the schedule. They have opted to not do that. But once again, we know this is of utmost interest to our residents who want to see city leaders take tangible actions to regulate this program. So we're not going to let the administration's decision to not add this fee just stop the work, and we're going to bring it forward. And again, that helps to fully codify the benefits that we just talked about around transparency and accountability around a program that has cost the city and cost our residents, be it financially or the loss of human life. And we have the ability to put a stop or at least mitigate that with this fee as we're pursuing other legislative actions that we can take within our authority. So again, those are the next steps. And then to summarize, the council-led pathway, because we just want to make sure it's fully reiterated that we worked closely with the administration and the CAO's office to get to a place where we're bringing fees forward that can not only just be implemented, but they are legally credible and defensible. And we started that with the work of passing Title IX, Chapter 171, that enabling legislation earlier this year in January. Today, we're further codifying this work in our code with Appendix J. And then in September next month, we will then bring the fee to fully close the loop on implementing these fees. And for anyone who has questions for our city attorney, we have City Attorney Amy Schultz, who's worked very closely with our offices on this ordinance throughout every step of the way, especially this most recent year. So she's more than happy to answer any questions. And with that, we will move forward with questions that colleagues may have about this.
Thank you for the presentation, Vice Chair Wansley and Council President Payne. I'll probably recommend that we open it up for the public hearing, and then if colleagues have questions or comments, we'll proceed with that. So with that, I will now open the public hearing. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to provide testimony, and if you haven't signed up and you wish to speak, please come to the front next to our clerks. Thanks, Michael. The first person we have signed up is Eli.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council. I just wanted to speak. I'm Eli Sherman, Ward 3 resident. I just wanted to speak in support of this proposal. I think responsibly tracking these off-duty hours is very key and could also help MPD build trust back up with the community, as it would provide not only transparency as to what our officers are doing, but what they're making, where that money's coming from, and any potential liability associated with those actions. This also, in my opinion, would better provide compliance with the Independent Evaluation Progress Review report, because as was noted in there that they were seeing struggles, this is on page 24, page 25 of the report, where they were voicing that they were seeing struggles in standing up a system to track off-duty and working hours. So I think that this kind of cuts both ways there. We could also kind of strengthen our compliance to this report as well. And Chair, am I allowed to ask a question of the city attorney?
No, but
Okay.
you can feel free to ask whatever you want in this testimony, and we may ask.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that also off-duty liability is absorbed by the city, and it is undermined understanding at least, and therefore any cost with that liability would be absorbed by the taxpayer. And I think that we should have some sort of risk mitigation here, and charging this fee could also mitigate our risk in that way, any potential payouts for misconduct that might come that way. And as a private citizen, I just feel like when I ride the bus, I have to pay for the bus, and that money goes back towards maintaining the bus and our transit system. And I think it just kind of makes sense that as a private citizen, if you want to hire one of our officers, that's great, and we would love to provide you one, but you do have to pay to use the city equipment, and that goes towards maintaining it, making sure that the taxpayer is avoiding any risk, and, we're keeping up to date with, compliance and data integrity and stuff. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Eli. I'm checking with the clerk to see if anybody else signed up to testify.
No one else has signed up at this time.
I will give one more warning. If you wish to testify, please feel free to come up here, and then you can sign in after. But just make sure you sign in after, before you leave.
Thank you, council members. My name is Connor Wells. I'm representing Communities United Against Police Brutality, CUAPB. I am here to read off a letter that was sent to each of the ward members in order to ensure that the encouragement by CUAPB and by the community is heard by each and every one of you. So, council members, we appreciate the opportunity to address Ordinance 2025-003. This ordinance provides for the ability to collect fees to cover the costs and the use of city equipment or facilities by Minneapolis police officers performing outside, otherwise known as off-duty work. We support this ordinance because if the city employees are using city equipment off-duty for their own financial gain, the city should be properly reimbursed. Under the current decentralized system, taxpayers fund the use of squad cars, fuel, other equipment, and the associated liability, but the pay for that work goes straight into the officers' pockets. However, the real gain in this ordinance is the potential for off-duty work to be brought under a centralized control for tracking and administration of fees. Decentralized off-duty work has long been one of the most corrupting aspects of policing. When the Department of Justice secured their consent decree with New Orleans in Louisiana, that city's decentralized off-duty work system was recognized as extremely problematic and was the first issue they tackled. Decentralized off-duty work schemes changed the power dynamic of police leadership by allowing the individual operating the system to curry favor by assigning lucrative shifts to people who outrank them. It allows the individual operating the system to retaliate or to act in a racist manner in making off-duty assignments. The potential for corruption goes beyond just the officers. Since officers operating the system set the rates, they can exploit local businesses, demand under-the-table payments from owners, as did Derek Chauvin to the tune of $96,000, I believe, or deny services in a retaliatory manner. A centralized system would also allow the city the ability to oversee the number of hours worked by officers in these off-duty assignments. Studies show that officers working 12-hour days or longer have more accidents, are more likely to engage in the use of force, and are less able to de-escalate encounters.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate your testimony. It seems like no one else has signed up to testify. So seeing that no one else wishes to speak on this item from the public, I will now close the public hearing and open up discussion and questions for my colleagues. So I'll first pass it to Councilmember Rainville.
Thank you. And I don't know who can answer this for me, but is it true that off-duty are required for utility work and construction sites? So it's not just private security, they're for a store. Have we addressed that issue or thought of that? So Michael's, you had a slide of Michael's with a squad car. Doesn't Michael's require protection when they do that? Who knows? Who can answer?
Welcome, Amy.
Good afternoon, Chair Chavez, members of the committee. My name is Amy Shutt. I'm an assistant city attorney. Councilmember Rainville, to your question, I don't know specifically if the city in its licensing and permitting of, I think you're asking about electrical or maintenance work requires off-duty officers. I do know that with respect to business licensing and with respect to event permitting, while we do require security for those licenses and permit holders, we don't require them to specifically use off-duty. So while they may choose to use off-duty officers as security, they also have other options for private security that can fill that role.
So Michael's, well, let's use Michael's as an example. They hire off-duty police to protect their construction sites.
So they may be choosing to hire off-duty. They can always make that choice, right? But
Right.
they have the choice between hiring off-duty and, say, hiring a private security company that is not affiliated with off-duty officers.
Right. But every construction site I see, every utility site I see has a squad car there helping protect the workers and the equipment. So that, I'm just raising that point. That's something, have the authors considered that when they were looking into this? Because that cost will get passed on too, to our utility bills and to the cost of doing business in Minneapolis.
Is that a question to the authors, Councilmember Rainville?
Yes, have the authors
Vice Chair
considered that.
Wamsley?
Yeah, so the picture that you're referring to, Councilmember Rainville, is actually part of the media coverage where residents saw that and raised concerns around how our officers both able to do full-time work and also, and this was during the discussion around staffing shortages, and also do off-duty for other private entities. And as our city attorney highlighted, that, and I think your original question raised this, is that is not legally required. It's a choice in which off-duty can be used or a private security firm. In terms of what this actual fee address is, the subsidization of the equipment that officers uses, like their cars or their uniforms, their time, those type of things. Those are being footed by taxpayers, not the utility company. And this is what this ordinance addresses. It addresses the recouping of those costs that taxpayers are fronting for private goods that might be utilized by private entities like Michael's or other construction companies or any other business that has the ability to access or solicit off-duty.
Thank you. So I guess my point is that cost is going to get absorbed, whether it's on a utility bill that taxpayers pay or through the general fund. The other question I have is, Council President Payne, you talked about the supervision problem that Sergeant Peterson had with Derek Chauvin. Was Sergeant Peterson supervising off-duty work with Derek Chauvin?
No, I was connecting it to a larger theme of challenges in supervising within MPD. Related, the off-duty work operates outside of the chain of command. So it was not within, like if you were the supervisor of a shift of officers, you wouldn't necessarily be overseeing an individual in off-duty. So that particular case is not directly related to off-duty, but just ties into the larger theme that the DOJ had found that there were challenges with unity of command within MPD.
Okay. Well, it's kind of conflating the two then. I mean, if one doesn't have anything to do with the other. Okay. And the last is, you talk about off-duty, and this is to the authors, that there's high risk involved, and I agree with that. But there's also benefits. Have you considered the benefits of having a fully uniformed police officer in the community in order to respond when needed?
I'm more than happy to take this on. What residents have asked us to respond to is the high risks that have been noted for over 5 years now. And that is what we're responding to. And also the lack of inaction that has meant that taxpayers have absorbed upwards to $1.4 million of fronting the cost for a private gig program that is not accessible to any other city employee. And I think most people could say that's not fair and not a good mode of governing. So that is what we're being responsive to. You may see some of the benefits. We see this is something that has cost the city millions of dollars in lawsuits and settlements, and this has also cost the loss of civilian life. And we don't want to continue on with that theme when we could take preventative actions like we're considering today.
Sure. So I do agree this should keep going forward, but to compare a police officer to other city workers is just not accurate. People don't hire firemen for off-duty. They don't hire garbage collectors, trash, and police officers have that risk involved with their lives and their well-being. So I'm just not buying that argument that police should be treated like any other employee. Thank you.
I do want to.
Zena, Q, if you're going to respond to that.
Okay.
And then next person is Councilmember Palmisano, then we have Vice Chair Wansley, and I have a few comments too.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no problem with adding these fees to our fee schedule. They do recoup money we're spending, but please allow me to also balance out this conversation and offer to again highlight some of the positives that happen with off-duty work. First is it takes cost burden off of taxpayers for large events. Those costs of extra security are borne by the large event holder or the nightclub or the professional sports team or whatever it is that we're hosting in our city on any given night. This also allows for quick response to emerging situations in those spaces, as the officers are immediately able to switch to active duty and assist in potentially large-scale and dangerous incidents. Many times, though not all times, the officers are out creating relationships in the community, like some of the community policing that we've heard about. And as I've said many times, squad cars are best seen in the community, not a precinct parking lot. They do give a sense of security and that there is an officer nearby, and we still have a lot more cars than squads on any given shift in our city. A question I've been asked, and I'm not sure who might answer it, I think I know the answer. Would any of these proposed fees eliminate the responsibility of an off-duty officer to respond to a call in their area if or when requested? If they're paying for their own stuff, so to speak, they still do need to switch to on-duty status. Is that correct?
Vice Chair Wansley?
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Councilmember Palmisano, you are right in terms of you've raised this particular concern for several months now. I think each time we've responded with this is something best followed up with the administration directly because it's an operational matter. And at their last presentation on these off-duty fees in May to the Administration Enterprise Oversight Committee, there was no answer to that because what you're actually suggesting, like the quick response is the tracking between off-duty and then when they're being active, it's not being tracked. And they couldn't provide data points for that, which is why we're bringing forward these fees to say, okay, start putting those mechanisms in place to do official tracking. So we can say, is this lessening response times or increasing? We have no information because MPD doesn't have that information. But I encourage you every single time, as we did in preparation for that May AO presentation, to continue to press, MPD to get a little bit more clear on that.
So, thank you. So, Mr. Chair, as was mentioned by a testimony here, and I'm glad we have some testimony from some new faces today, so thank you for being here. We're still liable for all of this work, no matter what, of any officer operating in their capacity in our environment as a sworn officer. Therefore, centralized control is pretty critical, considering we're not going to be able to shift liability anywhere. So I realize that this next comment is a bit beyond the scope of the action, which is to add fees to the fee schedule. But per your presentation, I would like to say again that I remain interested in pursuing centralized scheduling. That is something that removes a serious problem in our city's past off-duty work. That is what was identified in the audit, that we need to get a handle on who is doing the scheduling, and that it's done equitably, not by playing favorites of any kind. I would still like to bring this in-house, but to do that, we would need to go back to the settlement agreement of 1997, the original injunction from 1995. And right now, the only changes can be made that are outlined in the settlement agreement, and scheduling isn't one of them. So, thank you.
Vice Chair Wansley.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I just wanted to make sure we get some clarity on some comments that was raised. Councilmember Rainville highlighted that we aren't able to put first responders like law enforcement on par with other city employees when it comes to off-duty. And you're correct about that because literally our law enforcers or sworn personnel are legally the only workforce at the city that can do this work because of the 1997 injunction. No legal mandate has been championed by any other union representing our more than 4,000 city employees to be able to use city resources to subsidize side hustles. So yes, that is absolutely right. And I would say, no, has not been parity in that, and that is why we're taking regulatory actions that residents see as necessary because this program has been so problematic, and our own city staff has flagged it as being problematic and high risk. So I did want to highlight, yes, legally no other city employee can do this but MPD because of the 1997 injunction. And I would love to see the administration or mayor's office look at challenging that so that we don't have to have that legally mandated on the books, so we can fully do more regulatory actions that's possible with this program. Another thing that I also wanted to address around the large events piece, through buybacks that Council President Payne highlighted, we have the ability as council to review contracts from large-scale event holders or larger businesses who are seeking off-duty or the services of MPD. That moves through a transparent legislative process. Individual off-duty side gigs, those do not move through any open, public, transparent process whatsoever. And we've actually heard from business owners over the course of the years of why they want city leaders to take action. It's because we know officers have been out in the community and charge all sorts of non-standardized and even inflated prices to business owners that have made it so that some large-scale events that we really appreciate in the community, like Pride, for instance, almost could not happen because of the cost of off-duty that was being charged to them. So again, by having regulation around fees and advancing more around that, we can not only address the security piece, but also make sure that business owners, event holders, or hosters who are seeking these services are able to receive standardized rates that are not outrageous and exploitative. So I'm really excited that, again, we're taking regulatory actions like today to start that pathway so we could continue having events that brings our communities together and not putting them on the chopping block because they couldn't afford a $300 off-duty rate set by an individual officer just because. So I did want to address that. And then I did want our city attorney, Amy Schultz, to come up and address the liability piece. I'm glad that one of the residents who came to testify flagged this and wanted to offer some clarity on this because right now, and we learned this in many conversations with the administration themselves, that our officers don't know that they carry liability for off-duty. And it has always been the assumption that the city carries that liability for off-duty work. So I just wanted you to provide some more clarity around the liability piece and aspect of off-duty work as it currently stands.
Through the chair, Councilmember Wansley, thank you for the question. So you are correct that generally speaking, the off-duty officer is responsible for any occurrences that might happen while they are off-duty. There is and can be a point in time when they are performing that off-duty work, when they are called to be on duty, should a situation occur where they need to respond to a police incident in their professional capacity as a Minneapolis police officer. As we've discussed, they shift from off-duty to on-duty. At that point, they are then acting as a city employee and are covered by the city's liability and all other city rules and regulations. But prior to that moment, when they are performing that purely off-duty work, they are not covered by the city's liability policy. So they are responsible for whatever they are doing in that private capacity.
Thank you for providing that clarity. I know, again, there's lots of lack of understanding of how that works amongst our own city staff and the public, so just wanted to make sure we got clarity about that too. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are all the questions and comments I have.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wansley. I am on cue because I have a few questions. Because it seems like you've been doing some research. I'm assuming you've been talking to city departments, and you said this is mostly specifically related to the Minneapolis Police Department. Do you know if, for example, we have traffic control cars in regulatory services, do you know if staff from regulatory services are allowed to use city-owned vehicles to work for private companies that do their own traffic enforcement? I see it all over Lake Street where private companies tow cars or give tickets to folks on Lake Street when they're parking in places they're not supposed to be parking at a specific time. Can staff, or do they, use city-owned traffic control vehicles right now to work for private companies with the city logo? Do you know if that exists?
No, legally, to my understanding, that is not allowable.
And do you know, we have health department that, has city-owned vehicles and they use it to go to different neighborhoods, pick up needles. Do you know if that exists in the health department? Like, do they use that to go work for private companies, city-owned cars to pick up needles in neighborhoods?
Nope. Again, MPD is the only department that has the off-duty legally mandated for them.
Great, and I think that's my point. My point is that other city employees cannot and do not do this in the city of Minneapolis. We should not be treating some city employees better than others. We should be equitable. Everyone has important roles that help make the city government run. We should not be treating some employees less than other employees. We should be equitable across the board. I think this ordinance is equitable. It helps create parity among staff members and staff departments in the city of Minneapolis and in the enterprise. And ultimately, we heard the mayor give his proposed budget today. One of the things in his proposed budget, based on reading the Star Tribune article, is that the elimination of emergency housing vouchers, reducing homeless services for some of our most vulnerable community members in the city of Minneapolis. that kind of a program is something that needs to be up and running. That kind of a program helps address some of the most important issues facing residents of the city of Minneapolis. And the reason why this ordinance is important is it not only brings parity for city employees across Minneapolis, but it's going to help us recoup some costs. So that way, when tough decisions aren't being made, we don't have an executive that's going to cut and dismantle homelessness services in the city of Minneapolis. And I want to name that here because this work that you and Council President Payne are doing is going to help us recoup costs. So when those decisions aren't being made, they don't happen, right? So not only do I see this as a police accountability kind of work that we can do in this body, not only do I see this as being transparent and equitable for all city staff, I see this as an opportunity to make sure that services impacting our most vulnerable members aren't being made. So I at least want to give some insight on that. Next up, we have Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Going back to a separate part of this, as was mentioned in Councilmember Wansley's last remarks, how would this proposal regulate and normalize rates? Isn't this just a fee schedule?
Thank you.
Sure, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so what we address with this by the fees is around when a business solicit off-duty now, they will receive the fee as per our fees right now. So there will be standardized rates on the city side that reflects the cost of our squad cars, the cost of uniforms that all businesses will now know, or solicitors will now know they are having to absorb when seeking off-duty. So it's the regulatory part on our resources that will be standardized and that the solicitor will have clarity on when seeking it out.
Correct. And that's meant to be consistent, not necessarily a sliding fee for different events, right? That's equitable.
Yes.
So this is not a rate schedule. This is a fee schedule.
It's a fee schedule.
I just wanted to point that out because
Yes.
some of what was said could have been construed that people are going to be paying even rates for officers and not being charged exorbitant fees by officers. That still could happen, is
Yes.
what I'm saying.
Yes, you're
Thank you.
absolutely right in that. And what I'm, sorry if that was not clear, is by us on the city side, making the action or taking the action to do the standardization around the fees, ideally that would encourage or at least inspire our, partners over in the administration side to look at standardization of rates as a regulatory action. I think some of the things that you're flagging around timekeeping, all those things, like those are the next steps of helping further regulate so we can have more parity in those rates ideally. But yes, on the fee side, you're absolutely right. This is separate. This is the city's cost that will be relayed to the solicitor.
Thank you, Councilmember Palmisano. Next up, we have Vice Chair Wansley.
Yep. Oh, sorry. That's, no, I just did want to say real quick that I want to thank our city staff, or city attorney, sorry, Amy Schultz, for being a part of this work and supporting us to get to this place where we can bring forward these fees. Again, this has been 3 years of work in labor, and just want to say thank you for your diligence and expertise. And also my co-author, Council President Payne, for also supporting this work and his leadership. As you highlighted, Chair Chavez, the ultimate benefit of this ordinance, of course, is not around just improving transparency and accountability around extremely problematic aspect of our public safety system currently, but I couldn't imagine, as you highlighted in the financial times, in precarious financial times that we're walking into, the idea of us not taking action and letting taxpayers continue to foot the bill at over $1 million annually for a program that could bring in additional revenue that self-sustains itself and takes that pressure off of residents who are also experiencing a multitude of financial challenges themselves. So I am very happy that, again, after 3 years, we're taking additional action steps that's within our scope of authority. And I really do hope that this prompts the administration to see other opportunities that's in front of them right now that we highlighted to do additional work to make more immediate and instantaneous changes. So I just want to say those thanks. I did also want to ask CAO Schultz just around the liability piece again of if our MPD or the Office of Community Safety has also received guidance on how they can further make known this liability piece that they cover and had likely assumed the city just absorbed for them when they're doing off-duty work.
Through the chair, Councilmember Wansley, I do not know what information, if any, the police department provides to its officers about their liability for off-duty work.
Okay, it's good. Well, again, I think there will be a educational campaign once this ordinance is implemented on multiple fronts, and hopefully that will prompt more understanding and awareness around the liability component. So thank you for responding to that question. And with that, I will move approval for this ordinance and ask for a second.
Second.
And thanks, Amy, for the presentation, for the work on this ordinance with Vice Chair Wansley and Council President Payne. Seeing no further questions, there has been moved to approve this item and a second, and I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on this item.
Councilmember Payne,
Aye.
Rainville,
No.
Palmisano,
Aye.
Vice Chair Wansley,
Aye.
Chair Chavez.
Aye.
We have 4 ayes and 1 nay.
And that motion carries, and seeing no further business before us and no one on queue, I will declare this meeting adjourned.